As promised, I'm back from the mountains with a few amazing lessons that you can apply to your daily life. Let's get started. Welcome to the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast dedicated to helping women navigate the emotional journey that is divorce. I'm your host, Erica, and if you're trying to figure out life after the big D, welcome to the club. Whether you're contemplating divorce or dealing with the aftermath or any of the many phases in between, the club has got you covered. Each week, you'll hear stories from women who have been in your shoes. This isn't about spilling tea on divorce details. This is about giving you the tools to take control of your own healing journey. Listen in weekly for advice, tips, and tools to help you move through each stage of the process. Welcome back to another episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club. I'm your host, Erica, and today, as promised, last week, I told you that I was so proud of locking it in, getting it done, and then checking out for 10 days to go first on a little fun vacation and then a retreat to do some trauma-informed certification and a deep dive unplugged in the mountains of Colorado with zero cell phone reception. And as promised, I knew that there would be some amazing lessons that came out of it, as always happens when you give yourself the time and the space to remove the daily noise. So I wanted to walk you through those because I think that they are so powerful and so timely and, again, real life things that you can take and apply starting today. The first lesson that I want to share is that you are in charge of your own experience. God, we don't want to be in charge of our own experience. Like we do when it's going well, but we do not when things are not going well. We don't want to be in charge of our own experience when our boss is a jerk. We don't want to be in charge of our own experience when our co-parent is making life insanely difficult. We don't want to be in charge of our own experience when we're looking at like, how do I restart? How do I pick the pieces back up? How do I pay for the mortgage this month? But the reality is that in every single moment, you are in charge of your own experience. And when we can shift to seeing this as a really empowering, beautiful thing, then we get to take our power back. And that's really one of the biggest lessons that came through from this weekend. So I was headed off to do this retreat. I was really looking forward to it. I'm really glad I went. I had a wonderful time and had some deep healing work done. But in the moment, it wasn't because of what was happening in the retreat. So I really had a different experience or expectation going into it. I thought we were learning a little bit more of a hands-on trauma response, kind of like how I love to use EFT and tapping, kind of like how I do transformational coaching, where we do some timeline travel to go back to see what past experiences are literally holding you hostage in your current reality. I was expecting it to be another energetic healing modality that I was going to apply. And in fact, it was really more of a yoga certification. Now, this makes my fifth, I think, yoga certification. And I love that I did my yoga teacher training all those years ago, but I have never actively taught yoga classes. I like it to understand the spirituality of yoga and the power of unlocking the body and the energy that goes behind it, not like the cardio yoga that's kind of like always sweeping the nation. This was not cardio yoga, don't get me wrong. This was Kundalini. This was deep energetic yoga work. So right out of the gate, I was like, oh, this is more like a final in-person yoga certification. We all taught a Kundalini Kriya. So every morning we started with a 90-minute Kundalini yoga class, a lot of energy work, a lot of breath work, a lot of getting things moving through the body. And then we learned about what happens when somebody's on the mat and they are having an issue, whether that's overwhelm or a panic attack or just too many emotions too fast, right? It's one of the key pieces that I also loved, right? What is trauma? Trauma is when there are too many emotions, too big, too fast in your body, your mind, your soul can't process them. And so we can go back to them at a later date and process them, right? But We learned how to hold space and help somebody co-regulate if they're having an issue that's going on, if something too intense has come up. But it wasn't the experience that I thought it was going to be. And so I knew in that moment that I had a choice, right? I had a choice on whether I wanted to lean into the frustration that this isn't what I had thought and I wish I had known, and how come it wasn't really communicated. What does that sound like? A whole lot of blame. And guess what? It's not the retreat leader's fault. A lot of the women had an amazing experience and it was exactly what they needed. It just wasn't what I thought it was. So I refused to step into any of the ick, any of the negative vibes, any of the blame, and instead said, okay, I know that when I give myself time and space and exposure to different healing, right? That whether it's yoga, whether it's meditation, we did a cacao ceremony. I know that I can unlock true magic and I can break through some shit that is still hanging out in there. And so I chose to choose that path. I said, great, I am in charge of my own experience. What do I need right now? What can I learn from this? What can I take from this? What can I apply from this? Which lended right into the second lesson, which was don't ever rain on someone else's parade. Like I just mentioned, there were 14 of us, 14 fantastic women who were also at this retreat. And I believe for the majority of them, maybe all, I don't know if I want to say all, because there were some I had, we had chatted a little bit with, but the majority of them absolutely loved it. It was exactly what they needed. And if I had shown up all hoity-toity, huffing and puffing, this isn't what I thought, right? That would rain on their parade. And that's not fair. It's not fair because at the end of the day, we're each on our own journey and we're each at different places. Again, you're in charge of your own experience. It doesn't matter where each of us were at in that journey. Like, for example, we spent a lot of time talking about and learning how to create safe space and to create and host an event for people so we could do big retreats and events like the one we were on. I've led events for over 10 years in corporate America for thousands of people with themes and travel and guest speakers or me being the speaker. And so there were other people who had never done it. So it wasn't my job to be like, oh, some of this stuff I already know. It didn't matter. It was an opportunity for me to say, what else can I evolve? What can I shift? What can I learn? And when there were things that didn't go as I had hoped, where did I want to shift my own focus and time so that it still was a good investment for me? Never, ever would I speak poorly at an event. I used to because I would be overwhelmed and my systems would be tapped and I didn't have the emotional resiliency to keep my shit together. And now I do. And so I don't want to be somebody who shifts the room towards a negative energy. I don't want to be somebody who causes chaos when the chaos or the negativity is unnecessary. Because again, I watched these women have a beautiful experiences and I had beautiful experiences as well, even though it wasn't what I had shown up for. And so when you start to think about your own life, how many times is the experience not what you expected? And when it wasn't what you expected, did you choose to step into the victim mode of blaming and hating and negativity towards somebody else? Or did you choose to say, okay, not what I accepted, but how can I take it and make it my own? How can I still enjoy my time? How can I get something from this? Or, a lot of what I did was protecting my own energy. I went to bed. So I went to bed at 9:30 every night. It was freaking delightful, especially because we started and ended every day with a deep ritual practice. The morning we had yoga. Some of the nights we had yoga as well, but one of the nights we had a cacao ceremony. So a lot of breath work, a lot of relaxing and soothing, a lot of releasing. And so instead of staying up and chatting, I was quiet. I didn't even talk to my partner. Remember how in the last episode I was so frustrated? I was like, oh, I didn't sign up for not talking to my emotional support partner all week. I didn't want to talk to him. I literally wanted to cocoon myself up, go to bed, allow things to process, allow my codes to rewire themselves while asleep and then be ready for the next day. And it was delightful. It was delightful. It was the best boundary choice that I could make. In fact, sometimes in the afternoon, we'd have a little bit of free time, and we were in Colorado. It was beautiful, my happy place. And so the invitation was to go walk the grounds, right? They had some sculptures and some little moments all over the place. And so you could really go out and be one with nature. And the group would go, and I would stay because I was making a choice of being in charge of my own experience. What did I need right now? Could I show up and be in the same vibration, frequency, space as the other women? Or would I be raining on their parade? Would I just be getting more annoyed that they're like super excited and happy and chatty, and I really wanted quiet? Again, in charge of my own experience. I said no, I stayed in my room, or I launched what is dropping November 17th, which is the No.vember challenge. I got real clear. When you give yourself space to disconnect, I had done all that work to get everything pre-programmed, which means that when all of a sudden we were given the gift of like, hey, you got 2 hours before our next workshop that's going on, I had the creative space to create something new instead of just trying to catch up. And I think this is a powerful lesson too. We often think that when I get it done, if I get it done, if I can just fit a few more things in the day, then I will have the time to go for a walk or go to the gym or take a vacation or read a book for yourself. But we fill up the time that we have. And so if you just keep adding more things to it and don't prioritize the pieces that get you your balance, you usually don't ever have time for those pieces. And so when I prioritized and I got all the things done, and then I was given the gift of time, creativity could flow. And I'm super excited about the challenge, November's challenge. We're going to do this every year, you guys, because this is fucking kick ass, and this is a vibe, and this is a hell yes to who you are becoming. And what better time than like right before we hit the holidays and you get asked to do all this stuff that you probably don't want to do. So the No.vember challenge is a 5-day challenge. Every single day, one simple ask. I want you to say no to something that no longer serves you. No, I am not going to be able to make that happy hour this week, or the social engagement, or the whatever. Or no, I'm not going to be able to take on extra time this week. Like with the kiddos, it's 50-50, other co-parent needs to do what they need to do. Whatever those pieces are. No, I'm not going to skip going to the gym because I have so much stuff to do, because the gym is actually my happy place and helps me feel better. You're going to say no. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, a simple no. But we're also going to dive into the psychology behind it, right? Because it doesn't always feel safe to say no. It doesn't always feel like you're allowed to say no, especially culturally. It's the holiday season. You have to show up to the holiday party or the Friendsgiving or the, holiday family gathering. You have to do it. Maybe you don't. So week of November 17th, we're going to practice saying no, learning how to feel safe in your body when saying no, and learning when your body is triggering you that it's not safe. And that's, again, fear, false evidence appearing real, so that you're prepped and able to stand in your true power. You don't need me to help you find her. You need me to give you permission to fully be her, because the world is not giving you permission. The world is telling you, you better show up for your kids and you better do this. And how dare you choose to leave your marriage? You should have stayed. Whatever the you should haves are. The world has a lot of them for us. And I want to give you the permission slip to say, F that. I'm going to be who I'm going to be. And guess what? I'm in a season of healing, and I get to figure that shit out. And I don't always get it right. And I change my mind. And that's okay too. I celebrate you for that, because that is a big part of this journey. You got to figure out who you are, what you want, and what you need. And so November, we're going to do that for 5 days. It is going to run as emails, but I might also build it into the app so you can just download it on the app and hit play and listen along, or do whatever, read it, whatever you want to do, whatever's easiest. But yeah, it was a gift. It was a gift that I would have not given myself if I hadn't gone on this retreat, even though the retreat wasn't what I expected, even though what I thought I was going to learn didn't happen. I was in charge of my own experience. I made the most of it. I chose to not rain on somebody's parade. And if I couldn't match their frequency, I gave myself space. And tied into that, my last big, powerful lesson was don't be afraid to leave something that no longer serves you. How often do we stay because we don't want to upset somebody else? And how often do we continue on something because it's just easier if we take on a little bit more or if we put ourselves out a little bit more than asking somebody else to do it? Because it's uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable when you ask somebody to do something and they kind of like throw a little fit or push back or do whatever. So it makes us be the people pleasers. It makes us think that the path of least resistance is for us to change us. And while the truth is the only thing we can change or control is ourselves, it also means that sometimes we have to leave things that no longer serve us. I posted a little bit about this on social media the other day because, as you can imagine, being in the mountains, what was that? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I surfaced from the mountains, spent the day in Denver with my bestie, got some brand photos done for the podcast, which I'm so excited about. I'm like, can't wait to see them and share them with you guys. And then Saturday, I flew home to be with my partner. Now, as you can imagine, you've heard me talk a little bit about him. He is about the highest flying vibe of like fun, social, let's go out. He needs very little sleep. He is just always go, go, going. Mountain vibe, silent retreat Erica vibe, because pretty much it was a silent retreat. I chose to not talk unless I really, really needed to. Very different, very quiet. There was no TV on. There really wasn't even a radio on. I was sleeping by 9:30 every day, right? Moving through the motions without speaking. Extreme opposite of my partner. Extreme opposite. So I knew that I was going to have to level my frequency up. I knew there was going to be what I call a transition period. And there's always a transition period. I mean, you guys know your kids go through transition periods. Do you not need a little extra love and grace during a transition period? Okay. Have you ever done a yoga class and when you left the yoga class because you were so relaxed, you needed some transition space before you were ready to talk to anybody else? Or maybe you had a really big event at work where you were schmoozing and talking and hosting and doing all the things and you needed some transition space before you were ready to talk to anybody. Well, I knew I was going to need transition space. The Friday fun time helped because I started getting chatty again and I started operating again and I started getting real clear on the vibe and the level of the retreat is what I needed when I was severely, I want to say broken, but I know you guys hate when I use that word broken, grieving, lost, lack of confidence, didn't know who I was, the guilt and the shame and the fear like lived and owned in my body, like just crying, right? Like the deep, deep, deep release. I needed that quietness then because my system could not take any more intensity. It couldn't take going out. It couldn't take staying up late. It couldn't take go, go, go. There was no candle to burn at both ends. It had been annihilated in the fire. So I love those spaces. And this was a really beautiful time for me to acknowledge that, like, that's not really the frequency that I need right now. What I need is the higher vibe. But I knew that I wasn't going to quite be ready to match my partner's vibe. So I worked on it all day, flying home, getting excited for it, right? Shifting my vibration, shifting my music, shifting what I was working on, getting some movement in my body, being in flow. And I got to the point where I was really excited to get home. That had been true for the last 48 hours. And I was really excited actually to go out to dinner with my partner, which means that it's like out to dinner, out to a couple drinks, probably to a bar after. And our friends were out and everybody had been asking, where's Erica all week? And so he said, well, they want to see you. You have to come out. And so we went to dinner, had a great time, ate, needed my bed, but he wanted to go out. And he said, not for very long, like a drink or two. So I was like, okay, I can do this. I wanted to see our friends too. We go out. The evening quickly shifts. I guess I didn't ask if I could tell you the detailed story, but I am. Quickly shifts because by the time we got there, a lot of people were really, really drunk. And that is not a vibe that I have a lot of space for. Even when I'm in a high frequency, I'm a very low tolerance for people being stupid while they're drunk. It's just, I'm not a fan. I don't want to babysit you. I've spent way too many years babysitting my ex-husband. I'm not doing it. And so quickly after I finished my one drink, I was ready to go. And then some weird normal late night bar stuff ensued, and I was ready. He still had half a drink, and I shut it down. And I just was like, yep, nope, not staying, walked my ass home. Beauty of living in a small town, I can get myself home at any point that I wanted to. I left. The space no longer served me, and I made that decision fast. It was something that had been percolating all week. Again, I'm glad I went to the retreat. Zero regrets on that. And I understood at the end of that retreat that this type of retreat is not what I need anymore. It's not where I need to invest my time and my space. I'll be shifting that, right? So I knew even during that retreat, I was like, yep, I know that this is an ending. I know that this chapter is closing. I no longer need to be the one participating in these. I will be the one that's bringing them forward and leading them, but time to go, right? So the same thing happened at the bar. And since the lesson I had embraced at the retreat was, I will not stay or tolerate spaces that no longer serve me, I will remove myself from them. I will not try and do the work to line up to them. I will not do the work to pacify those people around me. I won't sit at the bar and be uncomfortable until you're ready to leave and put myself out, making myself tired and crabby and all the other things. I remove myself. And that's what a real boundary is. A real boundary is like, I'm not dealing with that level of wasting my time and energy anymore, which means it doesn't demand that my partner changes his behaviors. He still had half a drink. He wanted to stay. A boundary means I change my behaviors. I don't put myself there. I left. I went home. We think that these boundaries mean that the other person is going to change. You better be home by midnight. You better stop doing this. This is how I deserve and want to be treated. Great. And if they don't, will you leave? Because we waste years trying to enforce boundaries to get somebody else to change them, when a boundary is about your actions. A boundary is about clarifying what you need. And if you do not get what you need, whether that is the support, the respect, the service, the love, the whatever it is, if they are not able to give you what you need, will you leave? Because we have to get to a space where we are not afraid to leave something that no longer serves us. And I know that that's a big question for so many of you. And in fact, for those of you who finally found your truth, who finally found that moment that you knew that, yep, this is a space that no longer serves me. How did you know that? I want you to go into like the podcast, you know how you can leave comments under the episodes. Can you share? Can you please go in there and share and say, here's how I knew? Because for the women who are listening, that are still in a relationship, that are still sitting in the should I stay or should I go? It is the hardest decision to make. It is the hardest space to be in, to say, well, if I leave, what if I miss out on something? If I leave, what if he gets better? If I leave, what if? But when you have figured out who you are, you're no longer afraid to get up and leave when it doesn't work. You've already done the thing. You've already done the thing that shocked the world, right? You're no longer afraid to leave the friendships that don't serve, the job that doesn't serve, the partnership that doesn't serve. Because your energy, your time, your investment, who you are is too important. And we can do that in a loving manner. We need to do it in a loving manner. In fact, when you see people who do it in a bitchy manner, that's not healed shit. That is not healed empowerment. When people sit there and they're like, oh, he didn't treat me right and I left. The question is, it's a two-way street. Were you treating him right? And I know when I say that, you guys are like, oh, he's doing all the things. Remember, my ex cheated. He was not treating me right. What I'm saying is that we have to be able to extend the same love, grace, and acceptance that we want to get to other people. And if that person cannot deliver on what you want and need, it is not about putting them down or judging them or shaming them. That is who they are. So love them and accept them for who they are, and then remove yourself from a space that no longer serves. We have to stop trying to love people into better versions of themselves. We have to start loving them for who they are. And when you love them for who they are, can they evolve into more? Yes. That's how we lift other people up, right? Think about your kids. If your kids are struggling in something, you know what my child's struggling in? Cleaning the bathroom. It's chore. Good Lord. They are small bathrooms. They're like just the toilet and the sink kind of a bathroom. It's not a tub. It's not a big deal. I had to walk him back through what are the steps to effectively clean a bathroom. We've been doing this, I don't know, 5 years? 5 years, because we started cleaning bathrooms together, like, in our house. It was what we did during COVID because we had time and I had shit that had to get done, and he was home now with me, and so I was like, "Hey, let's put on some good music. Let's, like, tell jokes or laugh or talk or do whatever, and we get stuff done together." We did it with unloading the dishwasher, we did it with cleaning the bathrooms and cleaning the house, like, it was our time. He knows how to clean the bathroom, but he really doesn't. And so, as I'm retelling him this, I'm not judging him for not knowing. Am I frustrated? For sure. But am I sitting there like, "Oh, you're so dumb. How come you can't figure this out?" No, we're not. We seem to extend a lot more love and grace. Instead, I'm over here like rooting. I'm like, please, please get it right this time, because there are big stakes now. Like, he has been given the ultimatum that if the chores are not done on time and to the expectation that has been set, he loses social time, right? Because again, he's real flowy. He likes coming up with lots of excuses. So this is working. He's really thriving under stronger constraints, things that as a single mom, I was not employing, things that my partner holds the structure for. And my kid is like growing and evolving. He's not being put down. He's being lovingly accepted for who he is and what he needs and challenged to rise to it. There's a difference. And we lose that when we look at romantic partners. We start nagging. We start yelling. We start putting all of the blame on them. But remember, you're in charge of your own experience. Don't rain on somebody else's parade. They are where they are in their own journey. And don't be afraid to leave a space that no longer serves you. I'm so grateful for my time in the mountains. I am grateful for what I learned about myself in this. And I am grateful for the fact that you guys show up every week to learn more about yourself. So pop over to the comments, right? How did you know? How did you know it was time to leave? What was the thing? Where did that confidence come from? So that other women who are sitting in the do I stay or do I go, so that they can get there. And if you can, share a little bit about, like, how has this podcast helped you learn who you are or who you want to be? The No.vember challenge launches November 17th. So this dropped on Wednesday. We are halfway through the November challenge. You can still go get in on it right now because it will run. The emails will drop the moment you sign up. It is 5 days. 5 days of learning how to safely say no so that it feels good in your body. Because guess what? When you say no, you free up time for the hell yes. And that's what we need. We need more hell yes moments. We need to shift our mindset to not say like, "Ugh, this is the thing I have to do," into hell yes. How do I want to experience this? You know what I'll tell you? I'll tell you one more story on that, and then I will let you go for the day. When I was freshly divorced, as you can imagine, and as you guys know, I hate cooking. Have I mentioned that before? I hate cooking. I was just talking about it last night. It stresses me out. It shouldn't, but it does. And so a lot of times when I got really, really tired, that is when my son and I would go out to dinner because I just was too freaking tired to make dinner. But you know what that created? That created the fact that at the dinner, I just was like a zombie and I didn't really want to talk. And I 100% probably got sucked into my phone, which was not the experience I wanted to create. And I had this thing where I was like, oh, shift my mindset around it. Shift my mindset from like, okay, we're going out. It was a sushi restaurant that we used to like to go to. And so we'd go to a sushi restaurant and I'd be so tired. And, you know, the wait staff would always comment on like how young my son was and how well he used chopsticks and like how well he God, he ate all the weird, crazy stuff. The octopus was one of his favorite. He loved it. And I was just like, oh yeah, because I was not in the right mindset. And then I had this realization and I was like, you know what? I want to use our going out time as a hell yes, not a crutch. So we shifted and I said, okay, we want to go out to eat when we're both in a really good mood, when we both have all the energy so that we're building something better than just using it to try and get by. And it's a simple shift. It doesn't mean that we didn't go out when I was tired, but it meant that when we went out, I now was like, yes, this is the hell yes time. This is the gift time. This is something I'm grateful for, not this is something I just got to get through. Those are the little shifts all day, every day. Make those little shifts. When something shows up and it doesn't feel good, you're angry, you're mad, you're sad, you're tired, you're whatever, any negative emotion, ask yourself, how else can I see this? How else is this serving me? How can I shift this? Because I don't want to let it bother me anymore. I don't want to let this impact me anymore. And then you get to start to build something really beautiful. All right, you guys, click on the link down in the show notes. Join the No.vember challenge. Get your ish together. 5 days of saying no. I promise you, you're going to feel amazing at the end of the 5 days. And it is super simple. I'm talking like, I don't know, 5 minutes or less a day. Read the email, reflect on what you're going to say no to, and say no, and enjoy the rest of your day. And I will talk to you all soon. And that's it. Another great episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast for women learning how to heal from their divorce. Tune in next week for more advice and tips to help you figure out life after divorce. And until then, give yourself grace, do the best you can, and know that this is all part of the process.